Hello kids, we're going to sit through a couple books. The Polar Express, which is a holiday book, but this is a very important book in history. Looks like the Trump train. It was wrapped in an apron of steam. Snowflakes fell slightly around it, and a conductor stood at the open door of one of the cars. He took a large pocket watch from his vest and then looked up at my window, and I put on my slippers and robe and I tiptoed downstairs and out the door. "All aboard," the conductor cried out. I ran up to him. "Well," he said, "are you coming?" Where? I asked. Why to the North Pole, of course," was his answer. "This is the Polar Express." I took his outstretched hand and he pulled me aboard. The train was filled with other children, all in their pajamas and nightgowns. We sang Christmas carols and ate candies with nougat centers as white as snow. We drank hot cocoa as thick and rich as melted chocolate bars. Outside, the lights of town and villagers flickered in the distance as the Polar Express raced northward. Oop, I forgot to show you the picture. Soon there were no more lights to be seen. We traveled through the cold, dark forest where lean wolves roamed and white-tailed rabbits hid from our train as it thundered through the white wilderness. We climbed mountains so high it seemed as if it would scrape the moon, but the Polar Express never slowed down. Faster and faster we ran along, rolling over peaks and through valleys like a car roller coaster. The mountains turned into hills and the hills to snow-covered plains. We crossed the barred desert of ice and the great polar ice cap. Lights appeared in the distance, and they looked like lights of strange ocean liner sailing on a frozen sea. There stood the conductor is the North Pole. The North Pole, it was a huge city standing alone in the top of the world, filled with factories where every Christmas toy was made. At first we saw no elves. They were gathering at the center of the city. The conductor told us that is where Santa will give the first gift of Christmas. "Who received the first gift?" we all asked. The conductor answered, "He will choose one of you." "Look," shouted one of the children, "the elves." Outside we saw hundreds of elves as our train drew closer to the center of the North Pole. We slowed to a crawl, so crowded where the streets were Santa's helpers when the Polar Express could go no further. We stopped and the conductor let us out. We pressed through the crowd to the edge of the large open circle. In front of us stood Santa's sleigh. The reindeer were excited. They pranced and paced, singing the silver sleigh bells that hung from their harnesses. It was a magical sound like nothing I'd ever heard. Across the circle, the elves moved apart and Santa Claus appeared. The elves cheered wildly. He marched over to us and pointed to me and said, "Let's have the fellow here." He jumped into his sleigh. The conductor handed me up. I sat on Santa's knee and he asked, "Now, what would you like for Christmas?" I knew that I could have any gift that I could imagine. But the thing I wanted most for Christmas was not inside Santa's giant bag. What I wanted more than anything else was Silver Bell from Santa's sleigh. When I asked, Santa smiled. Then he gave me a hug and told an elf to cut a bell from the reindeer's harness. The elf tossed it up to Santa. He stood holding the bell high above him and called out, "The first Christmas gift." Ding, 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 ding. The clock struck midnight as the elves roared their approval. Santa handed the bell to me and I put it in my bathrobe pocket. The conductor helped me down from the sleigh. Santa shouted out the reindeers' names and cracked his whip. His team charged forward and climbed into the air. Santa circled once above us, then disappeared in the cold, dark polar sky. As soon as we were back inside the Polar Express, the other children asked to see the bell. I reached into my pocket, but the only thing I felt was a hole. I had lost the silver bell from Santa Claus's sleigh. Let's hurry outside and look for it, one of the children said. But the train gave and suddenly lurched and started moving. We were on our way home. It broke my heart to lose the bell, but the train reached my house and I sadly left the other children, and I stood at my doorway and waved goodbye. The conductor said something from the moving train, but I couldn't hear him. What? I yelled. He cupped his hands around his mouth and yelled, "Merry Christmas." He shouted. The Polar Express let out a loud blast from its whistle and it sped away. Go away, Mary. Mary's at the door, everybody. On Christmas morning, my little sister Sarah and I opened our presents. When it looked as if everything had been unwrapped, Sarah found one last small box behind the tree. It had my name on it. Inside was a silver bell. There was a note. Found this on the seat of my sleigh. Fix the hole in your pocket, signed Mr. Claus. I shook the bell. It made the most beautiful sound my sister and I had ever heard. But my mother said, "Oh, that's too bad." "Yes," said my father, "it's broken." When I'd shaken the bell, my parents could not hear the sound. At one time, most of my friends could hear the bell, but as years passed, it fell silent for all of them. Even Sarah found one Christmas that she could no longer hear this sweet sound. Though I've grown old and the bell still rings for me as it does for those who truly believe. Did you hear it? Oh, what? Okay, everybody, we're actually going to stop with that Polar Express and do this one as a separate video so we all can say Merry Christmas.